second to last guest presenter. And one more quote from Dr. Martin Luther King here on his day. Dr. King said, quote, "Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter." That quote certainly speaks to what Walter and Lori Hoye are doing, but it also speaks to our next presenter, Father Joseph Fessio, somebody who has not been silent and, in fact, has been incredibly prolific at spreading the truth through every means at his possible disposal about the things that matter. He was a student of Cardinal Ratzinger, then became Pope Benedict XVI. He is the founder and the editor-in-chief of Ignatius Press. And also, I'm a little bit biased, but Father Fessio, when I had lunch with him one time in San Francisco with my family, he told my children where to get the very best gelato in Rome, and for that, I am forever in his debt. Father Fessio, how are you this evening?
Fine, David. Thank you.
It is such an honor to have you here, and I know you have worked alongside Walter and Lori and the Issues for Life for a long time, and I was wondering if you could share with those who are gathered on this webcast your experiences with Walter and Lori and why this work you feel is so crucial for our pro-life movement.
Delighted to do so, David. You began with reference to Martin Luther King's quoting of the parable of the Good Samaritan. And we know that a Samaritan and a priest and a Levite went by the poor man on the side of the road. The Levites, of course, are priests as well. They're from the tribe of Levi, who's the origin of the priest. So basically we had two priests and a layman. And the two priests walked by, and the layman was the one who helped the man who needed help. I noticed on your list of speakers here, of 6 of us, 4 men are all priests or bishops. And thank God at least the other 3 have not walked by when they've seen people hurting on the side of the road. But I think it's important to realize here what the relationship is between those who have the ministry given to them of preaching and the sacraments of Christ and those who are the laity, which is the vast majority of people. My own involvement in the pro-life movement began soon after Roe v. Wade. I was in Europe during that time, so I wasn't here when the great heroes like Joe Scheidler really got things started. But I was asked one morning, it was an Operation Rescue weekend. I didn't know much about that, but I was asked to celebrate Mass for the people going out there. So at 5:30 in the morning, I went out to the chapel and I celebrated Mass, and I thought to myself, I looked out over these people, you know, these people need a priest with them. I mean, these lay people out there on the streets doing the fight, they need the support of the church, official support. So that's when I began to, you know, take part in some of these Operation Rescue weekends or praying at abortion clinics and so on. It was the lay people who brought me into this movement. And I'm thinking that one of the roles that we have as priests here is to encourage those who are not priests, and those who are priests as well, to be more active in this pro-life movement. I mean, everybody who's listening to this call, I'm confident, is trying to live a life according to high moral principles. Most of them probably are followers of our Lord Jesus Christ. And we know that he sets the bar really high to be imitators of him. And yet we can't, none of us can do that completely. When you think of all that Jesus did for everyone, and all he asked us to do, care of the poor, being peacemakers, striving for justice, none of us can all do it all. And therefore, we need to work together. And so, hey, I'm not probably going to be out on the street as much anymore unless there's a rocking show for me out there somewhere. But we have to have people who will support those who are out in the street doing the work. And there's another thing that Jesus said, one of his highest ideals. The last night he was here, the Last Supper, he said, he prayed that they all may be one, as he and the Father are one. And in my experience in the last 40 years, there's been no movement, no inspiration has done more to bring Christians of various folds and communities together than the pro-life movement. I mean, evangelicals, especially Catholics, we're kind of the majority of this movement. And I think it's brought us closer together, therefore closer to Christ, and therefore we're more effective. So the key here I'm trying to get to is that we have to support those who are actually out doing the frontline work, even though not all of us can do that ourselves. And as far as Lori and Walter are concerned, you know, I mean, I grew up with Joe Schuyler being the big hero. He's big, tall, has a fedora hat, a dark beard, and carries a bullhorn. You know, you can't miss Joe Schuyler. If you walk into a crowded room, I mean, you wouldn't miss Lori because Walter was very wise in choosing a beautiful woman to marry, but Walter would never come into your side. He'd get back in the corner somewhere, slouching down. Walter is, but I have to say, Joe Schuyler also is a humble and a very mild person. But Walter, you never expect him to be out there doing what he's doing, but he does. He's got the grace of the Lord, and he's got the Spirit, you know, that's inspiring him to do it. But he needs help. He needs support to do what he's doing. So I want to encourage everybody who's listening here, who believes in the same thing that we all believe in, but who can't do everything that Lori and Walter are doing, to support them financially, by prayer too, of course, but financially, so they can keep this work going. And one final thing I will say, David, about supporting Walter and Lori, is a little indirect way of doing it, is that Ignatius Press, of which I'm the editor, is actually going to publish a book on Walter and Lori this fall. And so if you buy that book and pass it around, it'll make people more aware of what they're doing, and also they'll get some royalties from it, which will help their cause. And while you're at it, we've got 2 books by Abby Johnson, too. So you can contribute, you can pray, and also buy some good Ignatius Press books. Thank you, David.
Father Fessio, thank you so much. You always add such joy to the conversation, and also know that I appreciate more than I can express in words. Many of your books have transformed my life and my family's life, and I cannot wait. When Walter told me earlier today that you would be publishing his book, I was filled with joy because I know how profound the work of Ignatius is and the work that you have done to spread the cause of life and just the cause of Christ. So thank you very much for that.